schemes. GCU-ACM Student Chapter operates under the supervision of the Department of Computer Science, GCU Lahore, and aims to open numerous opportunities for computer science students. We are affiliated with the Association for Computing Machinery, which is the largest US-based educational computing society in the world, where the entrants learn technical knowledge about computer software, teamwork, and communication skills. APTA 21 is a 3-day event starting from June 18th, 2021 and ending on June 20th, 2021, organized by GCU-ACM Student Chapter. APTA 21 will provide you with a great opportunity to learn from research and educational webinars, hands-on workshops, and exciting competitions. More than 2,000 students from over 35 universities are expected to attend different webinars, and they will be competing in various competitions. Over 26 student bodies across the country have collaborated with GCU-ACM Student Chapter to promote All Pakistan Tech and Art Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us our esteemed guest, the head of Department of Computer Science, GCU University, Lahore, Professor Dr. Asad Raza Kazmi. We would like to invite him to give his remarks.
Bismillah. Thank you very much. On the behalf of Department of Computer Science and the Faculty of Computer Science, and on the behalf of GC University, Lahore, and on my own behalf, I welcome all the participants and the guests for this All Pakistan Tech and Art Festival. So, is it, a brief introduction? I'm going to give a very brief introduction, while that introduction has already been given by one of the students. So, this All Pakistan Tech and Art Fest is a national level event of GCU-ACM Student Chapter, in which competition regarding technology and art are hosted at the university campus, but in prevailing situation, pandemic situation of COVID-19, nowadays will be organized virtually along with webinars, competition, and workshop for 3 days. So ACM chapter from all over Pakistan participate, universities, students participate over 2 competitions in 5 webinars, and technical talks will be given by the student to show their ability to full extent. This time, the GCU-ACM Student Chapter aims at taking this event to an exalted level to facilitate the new generation who is willing to use their talent at peak of their ability. This time, we're going to invite more than 50 universities around the country, which will be contributing, containing more than 1,000 students. It's a unique event, being one of its kind in the history of computing and art in Pakistan. All Pakistan Tech and Art Fest is undoubtedly becoming trademark event for Government College University, Lahore, and that of the Department of Computer Science, GCU University, Lahore. I'm special thankful to the Honorable Chief Guest, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Asghar Zaidi, and our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Junaid Qadir from ITU, and is a renowned scientist and is going to give us a very interesting talk, and that would enlighten the young generation as well. I'm also thankful to the team of this All Pakistan Tech and Art Fest students and their coordinator, Mr. Hafiz, and I hope that this event would be quite successful in coming 3 days due to the efforts of the student of Department of Computer Science and their coordinator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. We will now be having our Honorable Chief Guest, the Vice Chancellor of Government College University, Lahore, Professor Dr. Asghar Zaidi, with us. I would like to call our esteemed guest to say a few words in light of this event. My apologies. Our chief guest will be joining us shortly. Now we have a short video that we'd like you all to see on the Government College University ACM student chapter.
Okay. The title of our opening webinar is 21st Century Beyond 2020 Computer Scientists and Engineers Essential Competencies. We live arguably in the most exciting period in human history for computer science and engineering, in which advances in knowledge and abilities to process, communicate, and analyze large amounts of data, technological advances, particularly in the fields of artificial intelligence, which is abbreviated as AI, information and communication technology, abbreviated as ICT, and big data have transformed human lives. These rapid changes are resulting in massive opportunities, which includes globalized world, automation, and digital control, along with grave challenges such as climate change, a post-truth world fueled by fake media, massive inequalities within and across nations, and potential joblessness due to technology-led automation. As we move into the third decade of the 21st century, the 2020s, the unprecedented rate of the technological disruption and the short-lived nature of the specifics of computer science and engineering state of the art requires us to carefully evaluate what it takes to be an effective computer scientist and an engineer. In this session, after just give me a second, my apologies. Okay, in this session, after reporting on various lists that policy tanks and thought leaders have proposed documenting the necessary 21st century skills, we provide synthesis in which we describe the pulls and pushes that learners and educators will face in turbulent times of 2020 and beyond. Now, moving to our speaker introduction, our today's guest is going to be Dr. Junaid Qadir. Our guest is a professor at the Information Technology University of Punjab in Lahore, Pakistan, where he directs the ASAN Research Lab. His primary research interests are in the areas of computer systems and networking, applied machine learning using ICT for development, and engineering education. He has published more than 150 peer reviewed articles at various high quality research venues, including publications at top international research communications, top international research journals, IEEE Communication Magazine, IEEE Journal, and selected areas in communication, which is abbreviated as DSAC. IEEE was IEEE Communication Service and Tutorials, and IEEE Transactions on Mobile Computing. He was awarded the highest national teaching award in Pakistan, the Higher Education Commission's HEC's Best University Teacher Award for the year 2012 to year 2013. He has been appointed as ACM Distinguished Speaker for a 3-year term starting from 2020 and a senior member of IEEE and ACM. Without any further delay, I would like to invite a respected speaker to begin with the webinar. Thank you.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So I just wanted to update the audience that I'm waiting for the option to share my screen. As soon as this problem is resolved, inshallah, I'll be starting.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम
Walaikum assalam.
जी मैं
जी,
हो रहा हूँ I was supposed to be the chief guest but I got late through in another meeting. I still don't have any option where I can turn on the video. But never mind. We could. You would let me know when would you like me to speak. Now I have the option. Turn camera on. Okay, जी. Now, ठीक है जी. तो उसमें ये है कि do we have international participants as well, or do we have all Pakistan's Urdu-speaking participants? If there are international participants, then I'll continue speaking in English, but otherwise, I'm happy to switch to Urdu.
Sir, I think mostly Pakistan से ही है, student और participants. जी.
ठीक है जी. बहुत शुक्रिया आप सब लोगों का और it's a real pleasure for me to see this festival taking place. And as you know, we put lots of emphasis on societal impact, and what better department, what better discipline than computer science. तो आप सब लोगों से हम बहुत सी अच्छी expectations रखते हैं और खुसूसन जब students उसमें involve हो जाएं तो हमें ये बिल्कुल बहुत खुशी होती है कि ना सिर्फ वो एक अच्छी एक्टिविटी में जिससे उनकी अपनी नॉलेज जो है वो इम्प्रूव हो रही होगी उसमें एंगेज हो जाएंगे, बल्कि वो जो उन एक्टिविटीज से जो हमारी सोसाइटी को फायदा होने वाला है उसमें भी वो अच्छे तरीके से एंगेज हो जाएंगे. तो ये इस तरह के इवेंट्स जो हैं वो होते रहने चाहिए और मुझे बड़ी खुशी है कि आपके मैंने जो स्पीकर लिस्ट देखी है खुसूसन डॉक्टर जुनैद कादिर साहब जो हैं वो शामिल हैं आपके साथ और इंशाल्लाह you will get lots of good material out of these presentations and talks. डॉक्टर अवैस जावेद साहब हैं, उमर आसिफ हैं, रशीद हुसैन हैं, and so I'm really happy to see all these good names in the list of speakers, and I wish you all the best for your good proceedings. Is there anything else you were expecting from me? Okay. So who amongst the students is leading this society? Is it Tafsirul Hasan? Can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
This is Tafsir, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Muhammad Hafiz. Sir, over to you, Tafsir. Yes, sir. Over to you, Tafsir.
This is Tafsir, president of the GCU-ACM student chapter.
ठीक है, आपने मेरी जो बात इतनी मैंने की वो सब सुनाई दी आपको?
जी बिल्कुल सर, सुनाई दी है सर.
चलें बहुत अच्छी बात हो गई और आप जो है अच्छे तरीके से कीजिए कॉन्फ्रेंस और इंशाल्लाह you will get lots of good outcomes out of it, and I wish you all the success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir, Hafiz.
बस वो लगे हैं कि इनको प्रॉम्प्ट टू एक दो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे थे इसी से
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। Can you hear me, Tafsir? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Thank you very much, sir, Vice Chancellor, sir, for coming over here, joining us. Thank you very much, sir, Professor Sir Asad Kazmi Saab, Chairperson, Department of Computer Science, for encouraging us to do this event. Inshallah, we'll try to outperform and we'll try to meet your expectations. And I would again thank all the honorable guests, especially our first webinar speaker, Professor Dr. Junaid Qadir. And thank you very much. You can start the webinar.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
हमारे हेड कह रहे हैं आपको सारे कंट्रोल्स अलाउ हैं, यू कैन शेयर द स्क्रीन। आई डोंट नो सर क्या इशू आपके साथ। ही इज आस्किंग कि यू कैन शेयर द स्क्रीन। उन्होंने आपको प्रेजेंटर बनाया और प्रेजेंटर कैन शेयर हिज स्क्रीन। I can see your name in the list of presenters. इस टाइम 5-6 प्रेजेंटर्स हैं, कुछ हमारी टीम के मेंबर्स हैं, एक आप हैं हमारे।
जी वो मैं किया है, लेकिन वो जैसे पहले इशू आ रहा था ना कि Okay, just another update. I'm still trying. It seems to be some technical fault. When I try to share my screen, I'm not currently able to do that. But inshallah, I will perhaps try to log out and come back again, and we'll hopefully get this working in around 5 minutes, maybe. Sorry for the inconvenience. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you all hear me?
Ji sir, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, inshallah, we'll be starting in 2 minutes. Okay, Ji, thank you very much for your patience. I'm very sorry for the technical problems. It was out of my control. I did try to log in 15 minutes before the event, but somehow the technical problems delayed the start of this seminar. So I will get started. Inshallah, I will try to finish in 1 hour. So as to ensure that the quality of your experience is good, please do let me know if my voice is breaking up. In that case, I will be closing my video. But if it is working fine, then inshallah, we will continue. So the topic of today's talk is essential competencies for highly effective 21st century and beyond 2020 engineers. My name is Junaid Qadir. I'm a professor at the Information Technology University in the Department of Electrical Engineering. So yes, this talk is coming through the aegis of the Association for Computer Machinery. I am currently working with them as one of their ACM distinguished speaker. And so I wanted to acknowledge them and highlight that this is through their platform. I would also like to thank the organizers. Again, this conference, I believe, is organized by the ACM student chapter of GCU along with other chapters. So with that done, I will now like to start my presentation. Just to motivate the topic, we know that 2020 was a very impactful year. It was sort of a breakdown year in which many things happened. So we had this global pandemic, everything shifted online. There were many issues that came up in 2020, but this is also the transition to the 2020s. And when we go beyond that, we see for at least 20 years and more than that, people have been talking about 21st century skills. What can we and what should we learn to thrive in the 21st century? So in this talk, I will be focusing on engineering and computer stuff, but you will also see that the ideas are more general and they apply very broadly. So some aspect would be specific to engineering, but there are other things that everyone can benefit from, inshallah. ये जो paper है, this paper is a paper that I published in a conference, and this was based on a synthesis of the related literature and also my reflections on this for many years now. So I've been involved in teaching for many years, I've been learning for many years, and based on my reading, so I have some ideas of what kind of skills are more desirable in the current times, what kinds of skills, if you can acquire those, will help you to become a very effective engineer. So this talk is going to be focused on that. So the outline of the talk is that there shall be 4 parts. The first part is known as metacognitive skills. These are skills that are very high level. These are skills that relate to how we think, how we learn. And if we can improve our metacognitive skills, we bring those insights to all of our learning. Other than that, the second part would be about the breadth skills, the skills that allow you to see across fields, because although we have universities in which there are different departments, this is more or less an artificial divide. So when you think of knowledge, when you think of actual problems, you can benefit by having a very, a broad overview of different things, and then you can bring the different insights from different fields. And usually such interdisciplinary approaches are useful, especially for dealing with the kinds of problems that we have in the 21st century, which are very complex, and they do not yield easily to just a single department or a single technology. The third thing I'll be talking about is specific to the technical skills that we should have. And lastly, I will be talking about inter and intrapersonal skills. So I will now be starting the first part, which is going to be about the metacognitive stuff. But before that, I wanted to interact with the audience and just to know and tell them about the rules of our discourse, how you can ask me questions. So I've structured this talk. I've previously given this talk, and my own experience of online teaching is so we've just gone through an experience in which we had a significant delay. So if I just lecture on this topic, I'm not sure that is the best way for you to learn about this. So I just wanted initially to tell you that we're going to have some breaks. I'm not able to see the things that you write in the chat box, but you can write questions and we'll aggregate those. I've asked the organizers to help me in aggregating these questions, and then we'll be having some pit stops. There are 4 sections. After every section, I will like you to ask me questions, because there's a lot that we can discuss, but I am purposely trying to keep it short. So if there are any other pointers that you want, any other question that emerges in your mind, you can ask me. And before I start, I would like to just have a poll of the audience. So if there are any 3 or 4 people who would like to just give me some background, like I want to know how many undergraduates are here, how many professionals are here. I believe there are certain people from abroad as well. Maybe they are postgraduate students. Some faculty members may also be here. So depending on the kind of audience, I'd like to tailor my message. So if anyone can help me in getting this info. So if anyone wants to volunteer and just tell me about themselves, that I am this student, my name is this, I'm from this college, this will help me. So I need to know 3 or 4 audience members, their name, their profile, before I can move ahead. So
Okay,
can
so
anyone help me?
very sorry to interrupt you. लेकिन for those of you who have no idea, if you want to ask questions, तो आप hand raise का option use करें and आपका mic unmute कर दिया जाएगा, and then you can ask questions through your microphone and sir will answer. Thank you.
जी, I think कुछ लोगों ने hand raise किया है.
I'm Mohammad Hafiz, and I'm GCU-ACM Student Chapter Advisor in GCU University Lahore. I welcome you here, and right now I'm faculty member working as lecturer here. Thank you very much, sir. So this was my introduction.
Thank you. जी, so we have some faculty members. ठीक है जी. I see that bulk of the students are bachelor students. Do we have any master student? ठीक है, आप लिख दें बेशक so that I know. And I'm trying to keep this as interactive as possible because that is how it will be effective and also enjoyable for all of us. So any master student, you may just raise your hands. Gene. So let's see if someone can respond. So if I scroll through the audience, I see that it's mostly bachelor students. Some of them are listed by their roll numbers. So the funny thing is about advice is that usually we do not want to be advised. And the other thing is, although this advice can be useful, usually we tend to learn more through our own experiences. But my own like advice to you is, or my own recommendation is, that people have already figured out many things about learning, what works, what does not work. And there's a lot of research about the kinds of skills that we need. Especially, you would be knowing that we live in the era of AI. So already many things would be automated. So perhaps you'd be working in a field, maybe the education that you're getting, in all likelihood, it will be obsolete in a few years. So that is a sobering thought, but still, when we do accept this, then we would think about how can I learn things that will help me continue to learn things so that I can continue to excel in the new fields that will come. So this is one aspect, that most of your knowledge would be obsolete. So you should learn the big things, because the big things and the classical things, they do not change. Another thing that would help you all through your life is learning how to learn, because many of us, we are just focused on just getting a good GPA and just clearing stuff, but we often do not learn how to learn, and that disinhibits us. Basically that inhibits us from making progress and learning new things, and we are somewhat limited in what we can do. एक और पर्पस इस लेक्चर का ये है कि आपको थोड़ी सी हिम्मत देना. सो यू वुड सी लेटर ऑन एडवाइस डिफरेंट किस्म की हो सकती है. एक एडवाइस ऐसी भी हो सकती है. आई रिकॉल व्हेन आई वाज गोइंग इनटू माय यूनिवर्सिटी, वन ऑफ माय रिलेटिव्स, ही एडवाइज्ड मी कि आप यूईटी पहुंच जाओ, उसके बाद हर बंदा इंजीनियर बन के निकलता है. तो ये एक ऐसी एडवाइस है, ऑल्दो दिस इज वेल इंटेंशन, बट इट इज नॉट समथिंग दैट रेजेस यू टू डू बिग थिंग्स इन लाइफ. On the other hand, some of the advice I would give, you would think it is something that is elusive, something that is very ideal, something that you need to work very hard for. But the purpose for sharing this is to give you some aspirations about, these are the things that you need to be fully effective and to live a meaningful life in which you help people, you create good engineering contributions and so on. So this is just some background before I get started. I think I can now get started with the first part, which is about the metacognitive skills, in which we think about thinking. Since at least more than 2000 years, people have been thinking about thinking. ठीक है, इसको कहते हैं metacognitive skills. or metacognitive knowledge. How do we learn? How do we learn effectively? So in this sense, it is important to know a few things about how we learn, and knowing that will help us become more effective in learning. So in this regard, the first thing is to just motivate this lecture. I've tried to do this. I will highlight this quote from he was a very famous engineer. His name is Richard Hamming. He has many inventions and breakthrough work in the field of communications. He wrote a very interesting book. It's known as The Art of Doing Science and Engineering, in which he was also sort of similar in intent to the lecture that I'm trying to give, is that I'm trying to give you insights on how to do great research, how to become fully effective, and so on. So he mentioned, first of all, that if you want to do big things, the first thing is that you should want to do big things. And often, if I ask people, I ask my students, do you want a mediocre life? Do you want to have a mediocre engineering career? Many people have not really thought about these questions. They are you may call it very superficial. You have just remembered something, but you cannot apply the same idea in a different field. So when we talk of transfer, it is the idea that you learn an idea in one field and then you can recognize it and apply it in a different setting. So you learn something in an academic setting, but then you can see that this is the idea, and when you find some place, um, some actual assignment in your job, you are able to apply it. You come across something in life and you are able to recognize that this is at the core the same thing that I've learned. In many cases, people go through their entire education, they have cleared their exams, but they don't have knowledge that transfers. I will very soon give you an example from machine learning. People who do research in machine learning, people who are graduate students who have learned machine learning would be able to recognize what it is, that knowledge that does not transfer. So I'm going to refer a very important book, which is a framework that many teachers and educators use across the world, and in which they say that this is a primary goal of education, that you should develop and deepen student understanding of important ideas and processes within and across disciplines so they can transfer their learning to new situations. So the same idea, it should be the goal of an educator, and it should also be the goal of a learner, that they should learn those big ideas and they should try to practice this. All of their education should be focused on the ability to transfer knowledge. So in machine learning, there is a concept of overfitting, that you learn something, but you do not really learn the core pattern that exists. You are mostly learning noise, and you're not able to predict or respond correctly in new settings. So we should be wary of that. This is something that we should learn. We should be focusing on those important core concepts. I will be talking later about how to identify these big ideas. This is something that the educators need to focus on as well as the students. Our entire aim of education should not be just to get good marks or just to clear the exam. It should be able to learn about the subject, the important subjects that we have, and they should be able to understand the important ideas of that field. So in that sense, when we talk of improving one's metacognitive skills, there are two ways to do it. I have written 2 papers on this, and this is a good opportunity for me to talk to you about those. I will not be able to describe all of them, but I can at least highlight some important issues, and I can invite you to read these papers. It turns out that very few people actually go on to read these papers. And the people who do read it are already pretty good. And so they would become better still. And the ideas, the people who really could benefit from it usually are not very interested in reading stuff. They've not maybe acquired the skills of how to read research papers. But I would invite you to at least try. Is lecture ke baad, you should try to at least see some of these papers because they go into more depth. Hamara lecture to mostly it's a high level overview of these ideas. So there are 2 things not to do and things to do. And you could also take one of many courses that exist on various massive open online courses. This Coursera, where there is learning how to learn. This is a very good course. Some of the same ideas I've tried to document in my papers, but that course is pretty good. You can look at that and some of the other courses that exist that basically teach you how to learn. I will very briefly highlight the issues that I've highlighted in the learning impediments paper. This was published in 2015. This highlights this what is known as the iceberg illusion, that people think that success comes very easily, but really, if you want to succeed in life, you have to go through many challenges. You have to fail. You have to learn from your failures. If you try something worthwhile, you'd be probably missing out at least 50% of the times, and therefore you need to have the right mindset. You need to have good habits. So in this way, there are various issues that we can learn. So in terms of impediment, I've highlighted a few things here. I will not have time to go over them in detail, but I will just highlight their names and I will go into depth of one or two. So impediment one is basically related to have a wrong sort of a mindset. I will be explaining that in the next slide. The second impediment is the failure to engage yourself in learning. So I want to emphasize that you can engage yourself in all kinds of things. So get into this habit that you will engage yourself in things that do not immediately interest you. You would find that if you spend enough time, there are many interesting things in those fields. So there are many interesting fields of knowledge. Do not just limit yourself that I am just this one type. I am arts type, or I am just someone who does well in humanities courses, or I'm just someone who would do well in mathematical courses. I'm not this type. In all cases, you can massively increase your skills. So bachelor's should be a time in which you learn many skills at a good level. There are other things like the failure to manage time, the failure to manage and limit distractions, the failure to realize that failing is key. So one way people do not achieve their full potential is that they simply do not try new things. They would just basically do the things that they already know, and they're very scared of making mistakes. But if you want to do well, if you want to be an engineer, there is no way around this. You have to learn by making mistakes. You have to try out things. You have to do things with your hands, and this invariably requires making mistakes. So think of someone learning how to cycle, or think of someone learning how to play cricket. They cannot become superstars immediately at their first attempt. So they have to go through many stages. In a similar manner, if you're trying to learn, you would make mistakes, you would fail, but the important thing is not to make stupid mistakes while failing. And the stupid mistakes would be not trying enough, or it would be not learning from your past, or it would be even not venturing into new things. But you should be okay with failing, and then you could always learn from it. So more details are in my paper. And the fifth impediment is doing it all alone. So I do come back to it later on. I think I will highlight here the issues of mindset. This is a book written by Carol Dweck. She is a professor at Stanford. She has written a very good book in which she has identified how different people react very differently to adversities and to new things, and how they have a very different mindset that affects how they learn. So there is one group of people which she calls fixed mindset. These are the people who believe that they have certain endowments, they are born with something, and they cannot basically change it too much. So if they have certain skills, yes, they can develop it. But if they're not born with something, they cannot do much. And basically, it's a sort of they judge themselves. So if they, for example, fail in an exam, they would think of this as a judgment of themselves. On the other hand, so this fixed mindset leads to many problems. One problem is known as an imposter syndrome. This is something experienced by many people, in which they're always thinking that I am a misfit. I will be caught out somehow. I do not belong here. Somehow, the college made a mistake, but I cannot, for example, learn mathematics, or I cannot do programming. This is because of this tendency of people to judge themselves and to believe that they cannot improve themselves. On the other hand, a growth mindset sees adversity or a failure as an opportunity to grow, and they always believe that even if they fail, they do not think that they are a failure. They think that, okay, I have not managed to achieve this up till now. I have not been successful to do it yet, but if I work hard, I can do it. And it turns out that people who have this mindset are exactly those who will keep on trying. So the analogy with cycling that we used, the people with growth mindset would be okay with falling over. They would be okay with trying new things, through which they can learn a lot, but they can also look foolish at the start. So they are okay with experimenting and learning. And it turns out that growth mindset is good for you in learning, in your job, in your career. All the details are in Carol Dweck's book, and some of it is highlighted in our paper. In another very interesting book titled Creative Confidence, the author, who is one of the owners and founders of the design company IDEO, he goes on to share the mathematics of innovation. Who is it that become innovators? So he highlights that you need to have, if you want to have more success, then you should be prepared to shrug off more failure. So the people who succeed, they have this thick skin. They are able to try out more things, fail in them, and slowly, because they have the mindset in which they are always invested in improving themselves, they improve and improve, and eventually they have more successes. और इसको हम इस शेर में भी देखते हैं, अल्लामा इकबाल फरमाते हैं, इस पर गौर करने की जरूरत है कि गिरते हैं शाह सवार ही मैदान जंग में, वो तिफल क्या गिरेंगे जो घुटनों के बल चलें. यानी कि इसमें एक आइडिया है कि कुछ बच्चे ऐसे होंगे who do not want to fall, और वो क्या करेंगे, they start to crawl on their knees. This is obviously in the sense that if they only crawl on their knees, they will not fall. But if you want to become, जिसको यहाँ शाह सवार कहा जा रहा है, if you want to become a rider who will go into war and win a war or do amazing things, then you have to accept the possibility that you would fall. So all of these are ideas, they are related. We find evidence of this in modern psychology. We find evidence of this also in our traditional culture. We find this in the poetry of Allama Iqbal as well. एक और चीज जो बहुत important है वो है managing the tsunami of distractions, because the 2020s we live in unprecedented times. It is becoming very difficult for people to focus on their work, and they are mostly distracted, and when people are distracted, then the quality of their work drops. So in this very nice book called Deep Work, the author describes how we do not just need to spend time, but we also need to have focus. And intensely focused little time is much more productive than a lot of time spent in which you are basically distracted. You are continuously checking out your notifications, and you are not totally absorbed in the thing that you're doing. So this is something that is uniquely a problem of the modern era. In the previous eras, we did not have as sophisticated and as enticing distractions that we have now. So the author goes on to describe that if you do not develop your ability to do deep work, all of your work would be shallow. This would be low value and easily replicable. So if you do not have this ability to do deep work, to disconnect yourself from the internet and to go into some place and to focus, then chances are high that you would be doing something that is not very deep, and it is going to be low value, and it could be automated. You could be easily replaced. On the other hand, you should learn how to do deep work. This is again a critical skill, which if you learn, you will bring it to all your endeavors, right? So the book has this hypothesis that the people who cultivate this ideas of questions to ask, I'd be happy to receive your questions.
Okay,
Samad,
Mr.
you are
Sarmad,
allowed to speak.
you're allowed to speak, Mr. Sarmad.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah. So, brilliant session. It's been a long time since I've come across this genre of knowledge. So, my question being, most of us don't really know what is best for us because we haven't really explored enough. Now, how do we know what will be the best in our in our future? What career or what path will be the best? For example, right now we know that software engineering and high tech engineering are, they're the mainstream and they're the future. But how will we know that this is exactly this will promise a fulfilling life for us in the later future? Uh, does it have to be? Thank you.
Jane, thank you very much. This is a very nice question. I do come to this later on in my presentation, but I'll give you a short answer here that, the key here is to find the right set of mentors. And I will highlight later a book which is known as Who Not How. And also in one of the paper, I had highlighted the importance of learning in a social setting. So if you try to do everything on your own, if you try to learn on your own, you know, if you're very bright, you might succeed, but it will still take longer and you will be limited in the scope of work that you'll be able to achieve. However, you can do much more if you can leverage the minds of other people. This could be through reading books, or it could be talking to experts. So in all universities, we do have professors, we have people who are doing research. Some of them have an overview of many fields. Some of them are experts in just their fields, but you can go and talk to them. So this is the best advice I can give. The other thing you said was about finding meaningful work and stuff like that. In that as well, I think the same idea applies, that you should look for the right mentors and also benefit from the body of knowledge that exists. There is already, people have written so many books on many different fields. So if you can learn how to find the right books, and the question, how do we find the right books, this is where your more experienced colleagues, your friends, your elders, more learned people can come in and they can guide you to certain things. And then hopefully you would learn how to learn on your own. And this is a continuous process, but if you can learn a sufficient amount that will sustain the rest of your, because after you graduate from your university, you're not going to have formal teachers. So you should learn enough how to learn after you proceed in your professional career, and also in, for example, other aspects of yourself. For example, you have Stephen Covey in his book, he says that your selves have different dimensions. You have a physical self, you have a mental self, you have a social self, you have a spiritual self. So in all these aspects, you should have trusted people that you can go and consult. So I hope that has answered your question. Maybe we can take one more question. If there is any more questions, I'm happy to pause.
Sir, I do have a question. I gather that a large part of this talk is focused around research areas and stuff like that. So, as an undergraduate myself, I would like to know how can an undergrad get into the fields of research? And if you could talk about your personal perspectives here, can you answer questions like, is it intellectually stimulating, mentally stimulating? Does it pay off well? And if you could construct a clear roadmap for an undergrad, then that will be very much appreciated.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think the talk that I'm giving is not particularly focused on research. In any field that you would be going, for example, हम later parts में entrepreneurship की बात करेंगे, हम और चीज़ों की भी बात करेंगे. So it does not have to be just research. I think even someone who goes on to work in the field, he should have these metacognitive skills, because you will have a tremendous advantage over other people. So remember, the topic of today's talk is how to be fully effective in the 21st century beyond 2020. So this is not only for researchers. I could talk about research, but maybe we'll postpone this for now, because we have other parts of the presentation to go over. But I would just suffice by saying that this is not only for researchers. Inshallah, दूसरा तीसरा चौथा part गुजरेगा, तो चीजें आपको और clear होंगी. And then if you have a question, then maybe we can take it then. Thank you very much. This was very nice. I can see that people are paying attention, and this is motivating for me to go on. I think with the permission of everyone, I'd like to now go on to part 2. I hope this is okay. If there are any questions, you may please just park them for now and ask them at the end. I hope that is okay with everyone. ठीक है जी, हम आगे चलते हैं. The next part is going to be about breadth skills. Like if you are a computer engineer, should you be knowing something about design? Should you be knowing something about systems thinking? Should you be knowing something about arts and visual literacy? I would argue that yes, because many of our engineers are very narrowly educated, and that is a bit of a hurdle for your future progression. So it turns out that it is useful to know a little bit of many things and to specialize in one field and and go into its depth. So that is the thing I shall be covering in this part. So in recent times, because in the modern world, the problems that you face are very complex. They are very open-ended, and they defy common solutions. So when people try to solve these problems, they actually become even worse, because these problems are therefore known as wicked problems. These are problems that are very difficult to tackle. These are problems like pollution, urban planning, and poverty reduction, and stuff like this. These are the big problems. If you go onto the site of the National Academy of Engineering, you would see that they have listed certain grand problems. And most of these grand problems are very complex. They cannot be solved only through engineering. And that is the nature of the problems that we face. So in that sense, it helps to know a little bit of many fields. And this is what I mean by investing in your education. They will not necessarily result in a higher grade for you in your undergrad, but it will help you in the long run. And it will help you also because across the fields, although the fields are managed differently, they are managed in departments. However, knowledge is at its essence united. These boundaries are artificial, and you can always learn from other fields. And this is how creativity usually happens. When you have different fields, You have experts of different fields coming together, sharing ideas. They would see different patterns. They would see ideas that are there in one field and they can be applied in the other field. So in that sense, we encourage you to become polymaths, learn different fields, go multidisciplinary. The reason for this is it is said that if a hammer is all you have, everything you see appears like a nail, right? So if, for example, you are an engineering student with a very narrow education, everything appears to you like a engineering problem. But I have to break this news to you that everything cannot be solved through engineering. We require various other sciences. We need the humanities. We need the arts. We need other skills as well. So in that sense, we need to have multidisciplinary learning. We need to have an integration of these things. You need to know some economics. You need to know some psychology. If you do that, you'll be able to see that the same problem has many facets, and to truly understand it, you need to see it through various models and through various lenses. So in that sense, you need to combine the arts and the sciences. You need to be good at visualizing things and presenting your ideas. You need to be good at generating ideas. Engineers typically have what is known as an analytical mind. They're by default not very good at lateral thinking or generating ideas. Many a times the kind of education that we have, it makes us less creative because we know that there is only one right solution. So in other places, for example, in the arts, you are more tolerant of ambiguity. So the same sentence may mean different things, and it can encompass different meanings. So that is the beauty of poetry, for example. So in that sense, you can learn different things from different fields. So one aspect I want to highlight is that you need to become a polymath. And the reason is because the modern engineering problems, the modern problems themselves, they do require this sort of multidisciplinary thinking. But I am not saying that this breadth, so this should be pronounced as breadth. I missed a D there. So breadth, not at the cost of depth. This does not mean that you become just a dabbler, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. उसके बारे में तो जो मुहावरे में भी है ना कि नीम हकीम से बचना चाहिए, वो नहीं होना चाहिए कि हर चीज में superficial knowledge नहीं. You should have depth also. So for example, we can compare bad engineers who have superficial narrow knowledge with good engineers who are bad problem solvers because they have deep but narrow expertise. So they have deep knowledge, but they don't know many things of the other fields. We are recommending something as these T-shaped engineers who have cross-discipline competence. They know some things of psychology, some things of economics. They know the big ideas from there, and they have deep discipline expertise. And these are the people who can become great engineers and good problem solvers. So now a question might be coming in your mind: how do we become such T-shaped engineers? Because this seems to be a work of a lifetime. So yes, this is more aspirational. You would slowly get there. But the thing is that if you associate with people from different disciplines, if you read their works, even at a high level, you would know something. So the important point is not to be a bad engineer in which you just have superficial, narrow knowledge. And it is possible for you to get a very good grade, but still be a very bad engineer. Your knowledge is still very superficial. It may not transfer. So I hope you recall हमने कहा था transfer करना ये होता है कि एक context में पढ़ा और दूसरे context में उसको apply कर सकें. So you may still be a bad engineer even though you have good grades. it is better to be a good engineer, so have deep expertise. This deep expertise comes from, for example, doing projects. It comes from doing things that are not explicitly accounted for in your grade. But the better and the best strategy is to also be interested in a well-rounded education. If you see PEC or Baki jo bodies hain, they in fact do list it in their PLOs, program learning outcomes. They do expect breadth as well. But this is often a missing component of the education of our students. So I would like to highlight that this is what you require to excel and to continue to excel in the very volatile future that we are expecting. And there's also something known as systems thinking. I don't have time to go too much in depth into this, but some information about this is given in my paper. So you can read that. But the idea is that if you just focus on optimizing individually the different components, it might not result in the overall best product. You need to know how things fit together. And this is something that is studied in systems thinking. Many a times you might know your individual subjects very well, but when you come across a grand project, you would find that you do not know how to connect the things. So you can learn from the field of systems thinking on how to connect the disparate different components that you have in your mind. At this stage, I would like to highlight an important insight that I learned from a book. It is called The Gap and the Gain. This is written by an entrepreneur and a best-selling author, Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. The name of the book is The Gap and the Gain. So by now you might be thinking that ये एक बहुत ही दूर एक चीज है, मंजिल के पीछे लगा दिया. मिसाल के तौर पे हम अल्लामा इकबाल की शायरी पढ़ते हैं तो वो फरमाते हैं कि हर एक मकाम से आगे मकाम है तेरा, हयात ज़ौक़े सफ़र के सिवा कुछ और नहीं. तो एक चीज़ यहाँ हाईलाइट हो रही है कि भाई सफ़र करते ही जाना है, मंजिल पे कब पहुंचेंगे. तो ये कुछ लोगों को खदशा रहता है और वो उनके जहन में ये एक फीलिंग रहती है कि आप तो हमें एक ऐसी चीज पे लगा रहे हैं जिसके अंदर हमें कॉन्टिन्यूसली चलते रहना है. एक और जगह पे अल्लामा इकबाल फरमाते हैं कि रंग हो या खिश्त व संग, चंग हो या हर्फ व सौत, मोजज़ाए फन की है खूने जिगर से नमूद. तो यहाँ और एक्सप्लिसिटली और वो एक ग्रूसम फैशन में मे भी कह रहे हैं कि खूने जिगर से मोजज़ा फन की नमूद होती है. यानी कि डिफरेंट प्रोफेशंस में आपने आर्ट में आगे जाना है, आर्किटेक्चर में जाना है, या राइटिंग में आगे जाना है, या किसी और फील्ड में आगे जाना है, तो खूने जिगर चाहिए. यानी यू नीड टू रियली fight for it and you need to really work very hard for it. So for all those who are somewhat scared by this, so this insight from Hardy and Sullivan is very good. He says that the problem here is that many people, when they measure themselves, they are measuring their current status versus the ideal. But what you should be doing is you should be using the ideal to motivate yourself. But when you want to see where you are, you measure yourself against where you started from. So in that sense, you would be more happy just to compare that, okay, 1 year ago, I did not know this, but now I know this, and I'm on my way, and I will continue to learn. And I want to encourage this habit of continuous learning. Because this is something that will lead you to excellence. It may be in very different fields. Engineering has many subfields, and you might eventually not do something in engineering. But if you are continuously invested in learning, you will inshallah do something, and something worthwhile, something substantial, something meaningful. So for that, this is helpful, that you should motivate yourself by comparing where you are with where you want to be, but at the same time compare yourself to what you were previously, just to feel good about yourself. So if you do that, you're in the gain. You ride a rising tide of energy, and this propels you forward. You're all the time happy that you are improving and learning. Right, so with this, again, we have now come to the end of part 2, and these are some of the things that we discussed. इसमें अगर आप में से किसी का कोई सवाल हो तो आप स्टेज पे पूछ सकते हैं. जी, anyone, you may write your question if you want to ask. Is more preferred. जी, आप लोगों ने सोचा है कभी about this breadth versus depth distinction, where you want to be on this spectrum? आप मुझे सुन तो सक रहे हैं ना? I need to hear that at least you are able to hear me. Hello.
जी नबील, आपका माइक हो गया इनेबल, यू कैन स्पीक.
जी. जी, आप मे भी चैट में लिख सकें अगर किसी के in the meanwhile question.
Chat option is not available. Mr. Nabil, you have to turn your mic on. We have allowed you the option.
सर, आपको मुझे आवाज आ रही है आपको मेरी?
जी आ रही है.
अच्छा सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि जिस तरह आपने कहा ना कि आप मल्टी डिसिप्लिन में चीजें सीखें, और फिर थोड़ा सा ये है कि आप एक चीज में फोकस कैसे करें. जब हम किसी एक एक्सेलेंस को लेवल को अचीव करने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि फोकस कर लें किसी एक चीज पे, तो इसमें बैलेंस कैसे रखें, ये थोड़ी सी एक क्लियर कर देगा.
जी, दिस इज अ वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. और उसमें आप ऐसे कर सकते हैं कि यू कैन हैव हॉबीज, फॉर एग्जांपल, और फिर एट डिफरेंट स्टेजेस ऑफ योर लाइफ यू कैन फोकस ऑन डिफरेंट थिंग्स. सो यू might read about popular books on economics, on psychology, on self-help. They already have certain insights, but not at the cost of your coursework. You would find, for example, if you are in the middle of a semester, your first priority should be to do good in the things that you are currently engaged in. But the learning is not only going to happen during your undergrad degree. You will continue to learn all through your life. And later on, if you go into a job, you will find that if you're not learning, you will quickly hit a plateau and you will not be growing. So you need to continuously learn. And therefore, sometimes people learn about management. They learn about project management. They learn new skills. So for example, different kinds of programming, they come up. So you can invest time in that. And this is a slow process. You don't have to, for example, a person who is currently just in the first or second year, they don't have to know everything about all the different fields, but they should have this in their mind that eventually they would, for example, do some leisure study of this. So there are many online, for example, if you go on Coursera, edX, they have many options. So you can, and you should always do some things just for your own leisure, just for knowing things, just for figuring things out. And you would often find, we do many interviews, people, if we ask them about any courses they've done on their own, any books they've studied on their own, you would find that it is something very rare. People hardly do it. And this is because they're only focused on just getting the degree. And after that, they're disappointed. Mostly people they do learn the importance of learning later on when they come across some roadblock. But my advice to you is to continuously be invested in your learning. It may initially be more in depth. So yes, during your undergrad degree, you would be focusing more on depth. But at the same time, even in your undergrad degree, there are certain breadth courses. You should try to master them and have some hobbies. So if you like some arts, if you like to read Urdu poetry, if you like to read history, all of these things are helpful. So in that sense, I hope I've answered your question that it depends on various stages of your life and the focus would change. But it is still a critical skill. We have to be multidisciplinary, and in many fields now, to succeed there, you need to have knowledge from many different fields. Any other question?
जी मिस्टर्स आप बात कर रहे हैं, इनेबल हो गया उनका माइक.
Should I ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, when you are in this T phase, like when you are working hard to get to know about other things, about other disciplines, and on your way, you just find out that this is my interest, like your major is something else, and you suddenly think about the fact that you don't have any interest in your major, and there's this other subject that you're very interested in, which, by the way, was supposed to be your hobby, or the kind of like a thing that you have to be able to get a little knowledge about. So how do you deal with this? Like, it can get distracting to your major also.
Right. So the thing is that once you start, आपका discipline क्या है? आप कौन सी degree में?
I'm from bioinformatics.
Bioinformatics. The thing is that many of us, we start with a degree, but we may not be in that core discipline for very long. So many electrical engineers, they eventually go into software. Many of them go into entrepreneurship. They go into various fields. So in a similar manner, when you do discover things that you like or that you're passionate about, eventually you will find places or things in which your unique collection of skills would be helpful. So you should not be too much bothered about, I started in this field and I want to be faithful to this field for my entire life. You can always pivot. So in the future, maybe after 4 or 5 years, people would maybe be requiring bioinformatic engineers for AI companies, because they might be going into healthcare. And therefore, if someone has that expertise, it would benefit them. In a similar manner, whatever your mix of knowledge is, chances are that you will find some job, some discipline that can benefit from it. So I will just give one example. You might be knowing of, definitely you'd be knowing about the company Apple. They make phones and iPhone and MacBook and stuff. So Steve Jobs is famous because he focused a lot on the design of his products. And this focus came from attending some lectures in a design class in which he was just auditing. He was not basically a student there. And he learned something important that then he brought and he integrated that with technology. So Apple का ये mantra था कि technology और arts को जब आप combine करते हैं तो you create products which make your heart sing. So this is the terminology that they used. And this came through this chance occurrence. So do not be afraid of going into new fields. It may be something that will benefit you in the long run. And whatever you do, sometimes you feel that you have failed in something, but any knowledge that you learn, eventually it will help you. So you should be thinking in the long term rather than just in the short term. Ji, so I think we can now move on in the interest of time. ठीक है जी? अब हम बात कर रहे हैं अबाउट टेक्निकल स्किल्स, और ये आप देखेंगे कि मैं इसको बहुत ज़्यादा ओवर एम्फसाइज नहीं कर रहा, ठीक है। हाँ, आपको टेक्निकल स्किल्स चाहिए होंगी और कुछ कोर टेक्निकल स्किल्स मैंने लिस्ट किए हैं, but you would find that many other skills could be here as well. But the important thing is that you should learn the big ideas of the important fields. So the fields I've listed here is computation, computational thinking, programming, algorithms, data structure, and the art of abstraction, the ability to describe complex things in a simple manner so that you are able to understand what are the big ideas at play. Another important skill as an engineer, especially as a researcher, is to have the ability to model things and to approximate things. Another critical skill in this era of data is statistical literacy. This is a very important course. Machine learning and AI is now transforming all fields. Everyone should be knowing this, including electrical engineers. Other fields should also be knowing some aspects of machine learning and AI. And this is a technical field, optimization theory, in which you learn how to optimize things using mathematical techniques. Again, this is a very useful discipline, which if we know the big ideas of, we can use it in many different fields. Another thing I want to highlight is, let me see. Okay. So, can you see my slide?
Yes, sir, we can see your slide.
Okay. So an important thing that you must learn is to be able to identify the big ideas in your field. So this is very important, because when you, for example, graduate and you go to an interview, the people would not be interested in asking you about the fine details. They would be, for example, asking you, okay, which book did you study? Many people do not know the answer to that. When you are asked to describe the main ideas, you would find that you do not know the main ideas. You would be able to just say, sir, I studied this topic and this topic and this topic. But if the interview challenges you to tell him or her the most important ideas that you uncovered, you were not thinking in that way when you were studying. So an important advice to you is to focus on the big ideas in your field. And once you learn that, you can transfer them into different fields. So as an example, this is a book of architecture by Peterson and Hennessy, in which across the book, they make use of these icons. They say that we have certain big ideas. We will be talking about architecture over 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, but we will highlight that there are only a few big ideas that the field has seen. And these ideas are: use abstraction to simplify design, make the common case fast, use parallelism to increase performance, use pipelining to increase performance, use prediction to increase performance, have a hierarchy of memories, and use redundancy to improve dependability. So if you see this, it becomes very easy. So learning and remembering the core ideas actually is very useful, because then you can use these ideas in different fields. But the problem here is, how do you uncover these ideas? And this is where, if you use a good book, they will be highlighting this themselves. Sometimes you can use the index of the book to see what are the things that they are highlighting. Sometimes they would have at the end of each chapter the most important insights. So if you do not know every detail, at least know the big ideas in your field. In a similar fashion, people who are now working on AI pedagogy, they have listed certain big ideas. So for example, all of AI, it deals with different tasks. For example, one task is how computers perceive the world using sensors. This is the idea number one, known as perception. The second idea deals with representation and reasoning. The third idea relates to computers learning from data. The fourth one is focused on natural interaction. The fifth one is a key idea. It says that AI can impact society in both positive and negative ways. So you should be getting yourself skilled in this, that you should be able to abstract away the ideas. This is known as the power of abstraction. And also you should be understanding the core ideas, because this helps you then in the ability to apply it in different fields. So this is, again, while we highlight the importance of going very technical and going into depth of things, at the same time you should be able to zoom out and see, this is known as seeing the forest for the trees. So instead of getting lost in the individual techniques, go a little far away and see what are the big patterns that we see. This also helps you in research. When we talk of engineers, so this is something that I believe that to do well in engineering, particularly in grad school, if you want to succeed, do a PhD, you should be having skills in mathematics, which involves modeling and analysis. You should be having skills in coding, and you should be resourceful. We believe, and this is true, you don't need this for researchers only. For someone to be an effective engineer, they should be resourceful, they should be hands-on, they should have this tinkerer mentality, which some people call the hacker mindset, making prototypes. These are all aspects of engineering. And remember that engineering is a hands-on discipline. If you go and study about the best colleges, engineering college, such as MIT or the Allen College of Engineering, or any of the best universities, you would find that they are not very theoretical. They have a strong focus on doing things with your hands, of creating things. So you can create things either through coding, or you can create mental models as well, and that is done through mathematics. But for the bachelor's, at least, you need to have a strong focus on doing things with your hands. And one last aspect in this third section is, we need to have authenticity in education. So educators who do research in this area, they describe that many a times our engineering education is very divorced from the real industrial practices. So whatever ideas that you want to teach, they should be taught in the context of real world problems. So for example, if you want to study about robotics, then you should know that robotics has many different components, and to get it working, you need to, for example, get many things to work together. So when you do that, you're working on an authentic problem. If you want to get a real car working, you have to figure out everything. So in that sense, you optimize the whole of the car, and you learn in an authentic setting. So this is important for students as well, especially when you choose a final year project, but also for educators. But because this is focused on students, you should strive for authenticity, because if you are able to learn in an authentic manner, you would be able to produce when you go to the field. Also, you could build a portfolio in which you document things that you have made. For example, software engineers should have GitHub accounts or other ways of sharing the actual work, the projects that you've done. And this is very important for people who want to do graduate studies, because their people are not only interested in your grades, but also in your projects and also your research. So if you are able to do that, you stand out among the crowd. So the third part is now over. We talked of various critical knowledge, fields of knowledge. We talked of the importance of working in an authentic setting, maybe working as an apprentice or an intern with someone who is working on a real world problem. We highlighted the importance of maths, coding, and actually doing stuff. इसमें ये जो झिझक होती है वो खत्म होती है by doing stuff. So if one thing that you should be sure of by the time that you graduate, that you are not scared of doing things with your hands, and that scare is natural when you come to the college, but you should be doing stuff until you are comfortable with trying out new things, and you basically become proficient by making mistakes. So you have that confidence that you will eventually learn how to create something. So if there are any questions, please, you may ask me the question now. Or if you would prefer, I can finish the next part and then we can have questions at the end. Yeah, I think.
Please go on. Sir, I'm Heather from Auckland University of Technology. सवाल मेरा ये है कि पिवट की आपने बात की और प्रीवियसली आपने बात की कि पिवट कर लेना चाहिए इवेंचुअली व्हेन यू थिंक यू शुड, तो उसके लिए आइडेंटिफिकेशन कैसे की जाए कि योर नॉलेज बेस इज इन अ सर्टेन, क्या कहना चाहिए, इन अ सर्टेन वॉल्यूम और सर्टेन डेप्थ इन अ सर्टेन फील्ड कि आप पिवट कर सकें, एनालिसिस कैसे करें?
Right. So इसमें again, this is a question that requires consideration of factors. सब चीजें देखनी पड़ती हैं, लेकिन एक किताब है Design Your Life या Design Your Work Life, दो different किताबें हैं by Stanford professors. एक का नाम बिल बर्नेट है और भी एक साहब हैं जो कि ये बताते हैं कि हम अपनी लाइफ कैसे बेहतर डिजाइन कर सकते हैं, how can we make optimal decisions. So they advise that, for example, you could imagine futures. For example, if I go into another field, so what can I do? It would not be advisable to immediately change fields until you feel that the potential of your field, of where you're moving, is better. So in that sense, you can try out things. You can make small bets. You can try to do some small project in your new area until you get comfortable there. So the long answer, so for all details, I think the entire context has to be taken into account, but maybe you can find some good advice in that book. Ji. Any other questions from anyone? I think in the interest of time, मैं आगे चलता हूँ और फिर हम आखिर में, if there are questions, so we can pool them. ठीक है जी. The fourth part is about inter and intrapersonal skills. और इसके अंदर communication skills हैं, teamwork, creativity, entrepreneurship, focus on wisdom and ethics. The first thing is entrepreneurship. So this is something that we are critically lacking. So if you hear about our education system, you would find that there is very little creativity that is coming outside our universities, even though we have many problems. So in the book on the right hand side, The Making of an Expert Engineer, it's written by an Australian professor. He has worked with Pakistani engineers because I think he has family based in Pakistan. So he mentions that he worked with many Pakistani engineers, but they were not good compared to other engineers because they did not have this practice of actually resolving local issues. And then he goes on to describe how Pakistan has so many issues, including the power system, the water system, and many other systems. So one important aspect is that we should train people to become entrepreneurs. And for that, the important thing is not to teach them the theory, but to have universities in which entrepreneurship, resourcefulness, doing projects is encouraged. and it is a big part of their curriculum. And in this manner, they get into this habit of problem solving. They're not, so in many universities across the world, they're now moving to a problem-based learning approach. So in that sort of a pedagogical model, theory is taught in the backdrop of an actual problem. And while solving lots of problems, they attain this habit of problem solving. So I think you should try to encourage this, and you should try to develop this in yourself. And one part of entrepreneurship is just to be active and resourceful. And as an engineer, you have to do things, you have to create stuff. One that is also being entrepreneur. Another aspect is creating companies, creating products. So that is also needed. So some people say that we require 4C skills for the 21st century: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Collaboration is very important as well. I will briefly touch upon this in a later slide. But for now, let me also highlight the importance of communication skills, particularly in academia, but also in other fields. If you want to become a leader, you need to learn from other people's experience. You need to have this ability to write. So a couple of references are given on the screen, and I did a half aborted writing course. Maybe I'll come back and finish this, but it has some more references. And this is a very critical skill. In a book, John West says that it is nearly impossible to overstate the benefits of being able to write well. The importance of the written word in storing, sharing, and communicating ideas at all levels of all organizations make a poor facility with the mechanics of writing a severely career-limiting fault. So this was the benefit of writing. And in terms of reading, you could learn so much by just going through the experiences of people. If you read good books, authors spend multiple years, thinking of the best way to share their knowledge. So you should learn how to read, and that comes through practice. So maybe you should have reading groups in your colleges. You should share ideas with your friends and invest in your own development. Maybe have a few hours in a week at least in which you are learning new books. One important key skill which I want to highlight is, there is this book, Who Not How. And the authors are, I did mention them earlier, Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. They say that you cannot achieve massive things in life all alone. Therefore, instead of only thinking about how to get to your goals alone, think about who can help you achieve your goals more efficiently. So as a student, this would be, I've mentioned many things. I've said that you should try to figure out the big ideas of your course. So it's better to think about who can teach you this rather than thinking about how can I figure out the big ideas of my course, because you could benefit from people who have more experience. In a similar fashion, a leader, if he or she takes on a project which is a massive project, which is a big vision, he or she will not be able to do it all alone. So they need to, for example, recruit experts or maybe get people to work for them. So in that sense, this book has very important insights of the importance of collaboration and also mentorship and also learning through the experience of others. And at another place in this presentation, I've highlighted the importance of being social in learning. So learning is essentially a social process. You learn from others. If you just sit in a cave and you try to just ruminate and deliberate, you might come across some insights, but you will not be able to learn everything that other people have figured out. So Warren Buffett and his colleague Charles Munger, they're well known to share that, most of their insights is just to learn from what other people have figured out. So in that sense, this is a very important book. In another book, Stephen Covey describes that it is better to be independent than dependent, but after becoming independent, you should become interdependent. So first of all, learn how to learn. And then the final stage would be to collaborate, to benefit from other established people, to go to other experts. And in this way, you can do various great things that you would not be able to do on your own. And coming to the end of this presentation, ethics is an important part of being a great engineer. Unfortunately, if you see the curriculum of most engineering universities, mathematics, electrical engineering, physics, circuits, all of them are covered in great extent. However, ethics is largely ignored. So in this figure, the small book on top is ethics, and that is relatively the proportion given to ethics. So we need to learn how to be ethical, and we need to learn about wisdom. And so I did mention about learning ideas and models from different fields. And then wisdom would then teach you which model or which idea or which knowledge to use at which place. Finally, I want to highlight something. I'm speaking from my own tradition. I am a Muslim. I believe in Islam. Islam has a concept called ihsan, which is related to the concept of excellence. But this is different from the traditional concept of excellence. So in Stephen Covey's book, he motivates you to think about what will people say when you are dying, about, on your 80th birthday, how would they remember your life? So that is also something that we would like, that people should be, saying good things about us because we've done good things. But as a Muslim, we should also be thinking about the afterlife, and we should be doing things for the pleasure of Allah. And we should be doing things with ikhlas and lillahiyat, and to benefit people, to benefit Muslims, and to benefit humanity. All of this should be with the right intention. So we have this native inherent concept in Islam. And if you note this word ihsan, this is related to other words in Arabic and Urdu. Hasana means goodness. Husn means beauty. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beautiful, and He loves beauty, and He wants us to show and reflect beauty and excellence in all our actions. So if we do work as good engineers, then this is also as part of our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I do have a course on this. If you are interested more, you can go and look at this. So now I have come to the end of my talk. These are the ideas I covered here, and these are the references. If you want to read more, I have a paper, Engineering Education Moving into 2020s. This is co-authored with other people, and I have 2 other papers published in IEEE Potential. If you want, you can easily find them online. If you're not able to find them, you can email me, and inshallah I can also share that. And now if there is any question, please, this would be the last break. I'm happy that I finished on time, even though we started late. I hope I finished on time, but little bit late. Ji, aapka sawal, if you have any questions.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर आपने all the plenty of knowledge from all various fields, from metacognition to the technical knowledge. There was very fruitful discussion. कुछ चीजें जो हमें लगती हैं कि ये सेल्फ हेल्प की किताबें हैं, इनकी एक तरह की समझ लें बबल बनता है, उसके बाद इनका इफेक्ट खत्म हो जाता है. So what is the way to get a constant source of motivation? You told us that you have to have a mentor, ये पहली बात है, plus like-minded people के साथ मिले, ये दूसरी बात है, लेकिन यहाँ पे वो opportunities इतने नहीं हैं. So would you like to open some doors for us that if people want to be a part of your team, what kind of things they would do and where they can go? Thank you.
जी इंशाल्लाह, thank you very much. I think this is a very key question कि ये जो motivation होती है ये वेवर करती है, एक जगह पे नहीं रहती, ठीक है, और हालात भी चेंज होते रहते हैं. But the important thing is to be committed to excelling, to working on yourself, investing some time continuously, थोड़ा थोड़ा, कभी ज़्यादा कभी कम, और उसमें eventually look for good mentors, good colleagues, people who can lift you up, ठीक है, और उसमें आप और लोगों से भी कर सकते हैं. High ambitions रखें, look for people who have also high ambitions like you. Go to places where they talk of high ambitions, हिम्मत की बात करते हैं, और अच्छाई की बात करते हैं, खैर की बात करते हैं, excellence की बात करते हैं. तो you should go to those places और connect रहें लोगों से. और अगर आप में से कोई भी like time permitting and but I'm happy to give them pointers. अब मुझे बल्कि I'd be really looking forward to hearing any feedback, comments that you have, because ये पेपर तो मैंने काफी देर के लिखे हुए हैं, लेकिन this is an opportunity to disseminate this knowledge further ahead. आप वो पेपर भी देखिए, और फिर जो भी आप जिस फील्ड में भी हैं उसमें एक्सेल करने की कोशिश करें. तो I'd be happy to give any advice जो मैं मैनेज कर सका इंशाल्लाह.
Mr. Sarmad, आपका mic open है, आप you can speak.
Hello. Assalamualaikum.
जी.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to pick something from your first part of the lecture. You mentioned something about you're supposed to explore things in different domains, not only in your technical or engineering domain, but in other domains, for example, psychology, economics, and all the other domains that possibly exist, to see what inspires you, right? So, and some things, something you it's like some things you don't like, but if you spend a substantial amount of time, you might something that clicks you. So what is that threshold time that we should spend in a certain domain? के example के हमने इतना time इसमें कर लिया, इतनी knowledge इसकी ले ली, इससे अपनी चीज में भी तो ध्यान देना है ना, तो इससे ज्यादा नहीं करना. इतनी knowledge ले ली लेकिन नहीं समझ आया वो substantial amount की parameters क्या है, ये सवाल था.
जी, I think ये thank you for your question. I think ये थोड़ा उससे related ही है जो पहले भी सवाल था कि pivot कब करना है, कैसे करना है, substantial knowledge कब हो गई. तो उसमें भी जो मेरा सवाल था कि ये थोड़ा सा ना case to case भी depend करता है, और आपको हालात से देखना पड़ता है, ठीक है. कभी कभी मतलब opportunities आती हैं आपके पास, इसको वो serendipity भी कहते हैं कि sometimes things come up, you are not planning for it, और फिर you can make a pivot. तो आप ये है कि इसका कोई एक इस तरह हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल तो नहीं है कि इतनी थ्रेशोल्ड हो. बहुत सारी चीजें आपके हालात पे डिपेंड करेंगे. हो सकता है आपको इकोनॉमिकली एक फील्ड में रहना पड़ रहा है, उसी में जॉब मिली है और जगह नहीं मिल रही, इवन दो यू डोंट लाइक इट, बट यू कैन कंटिन्यू टू dabble with things that you like, and eventually you may come across a situation where a suitable opportunity comes for you in which you can go and thrive. So for example, if someone likes to learn, ठीक है, तो being an educator is a very good field for them because they can continuously learn and it becomes their job to learn. इसी तरह अगर आप किसी आपको hands-on काम पसंद है तो maybe if you keep on looking कभी ज़्यादा time लग जाता है कभी कम लग जाता है कभी 6 महीने लगते हैं कभी साल लगता है but eventually you will find opportunities और फिर जब आपने फैसला करना हो तो आप इस्तिखारा कर सकते हैं और उसके ज़रिए फिर आप ज़्यादा बेहतर सेंस में लोगों से मशवरा कर सकते हैं so these are the things that we should do उसके बाद फिर आप चेंज कर सकते हैं लेकिन इसका कोई I'm sorry मेरे जहन में तो कोई एक इस तरह का रूल नहीं है which will work for everyone but these are some of the standard strategies कि अपने ऊपर मेहनत करें मशवरा करें इस्तिखारा करें और कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस करें कि अभी मूव करना बेहतर है कब मूव करना बेहतर है बट do not I think that is not wise कि आप सोचें कि if I am an electrical engineer who did my FYP in power I will continue to work in power all my life so this is not how things work
Thank you, sir.
ठीक है जी हम मेरे ख्याल 10-15 सेकंड वेट करते हैं मे बी अगर कोई सवाल पूछना चाहें तो फिर वरना हम फिर कंक्लूड करते हैं Okay, so it seems कि अभी और सवाल नहीं है and we are nearly at the end of our slotted time. So I thank you all for your attention. I apologize for the delays in starting and the technical issues. I hope that you learned something of value. If you are more interested, you can email me. If you want links to these papers, I can share them with you. If you want this presentation, I can also share that. And I wish you all the very best. I'd like to thank the organizers for this event. And with this, I would like to just conclude the talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now proceeding to the final part of our webinar, we would like to thank our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Asghar Zaidi, our head of the Department of the Computer Science, Professor Dr. Asad Raza Kazmi, the advisor of GCU-ACM student chapter, Mr. Mohammad Hafiz, and our esteemed guest speaker for this event, Dr. Junaid Qadir. We're grateful to have you all here with us today and thank you for making this a very successful event.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us our honorable chairpersons and presidents of the societies that have collaborated with us today. We have Aisha Mujib, the chairperson of IEEE Computer Society, ComSats Islamabad. We have Hina Mariam, the vice president of UET Tribune. We have Mr. Ahmed Tariq, the president of NUSIS Peshawar ACM student chapter. We have Mr. Azim Azmat, the president of IET on campus UET Lahore. We have Mr. Talal Javed, chairperson of IEEE CS chapter, Superior University, Lahore. We have Ms. Manal Rahman, the the chairperson of IEEE ComSats Islamabad. We have Mr. Syed Saeed Rashid, the chairperson of IEEE LUMS student branch. We have Mr. Maaz Ahmed, the chairperson of IEEE UET New Campus. We have Mr. Owais Liaquat, the chairperson of IEEE UCET, Islamia University of Bahawalpur. We have Sadeed Wasim, the president of IET on-campus ComSats Lahore. We have Mr. Syed Mustafa Abbas, the president of IET UET KSK. We have Mr. Naeem Shah, the president of ACM Muhammad Ali Jinnah University Karachi. We have Mr. Robil Hassan, the president of ACM CY Lahore. We have Ms. Rumaisa Mariam, the chairperson of IEEE NED UET student branch. We have Mr. Tabish Mirza, the president of ComSats ACM WA. We have Ms. Yusra Hoso, the president of Software Engineering Society MUET. We have Mr. Faraz Ali, the chairperson of IEEE HIET student branch. We have Mr. Basitur Rahman, chairperson of IEEE CUI Lahore. We have Mr. Had Shakil, the president of Hamdard University ACM student chapter. We have Mr. Yasir Bashir, the president of Arbisoft ACM chapter. We have Mr. Mohsin Javed, the chairperson of IEEE student branch UET Texla. We have Ms. Kainat Sajid, the chairperson of IEEE GCU student branch. And finally, we have Ms. Aisha Ashraf, the chairperson of IEEE GCU student branch. Thank you all for being here. Now we will shortly display a slide which will have the link for attendance. Please enter the link in your browsers, in your phones or laptops, and don't forget to mark your attendance over there.